Hey guys, this video is on how to remove your lower control arms. There are a couple of videos online that are okay, but they're a little vague, and after having to do this, I'm just going to make this a more short, brief, to-the-point video on how to remove your lower control arms. I already have mine off. That's what it takes to get those off. Once these bolts seize up, my front bolts came right out. My rear bolts didn't. My rear bolt were both seized in there. This is what the piece looks like. This is what it looks like if it comes apart. There's a little hexagon in there, and this washer at the hexagon goes inside there. This stuff is all rusted solid. These pieces are all rusted solid. And you can see I have to cut that whole mess off. You have to cut that whole thing off. Both sides of this control arm, you have to cut. If this bolt comes out in the front, which mine did, I had to cut the back, and I was able to get it out with that little stub on there. You may have to cut that little stub off. You can't get it out. So you're going to have to make a minimum of 3 cuts. See, my bolt came out on this side, so I only had to cut one side of this. But you may have to plan on making 4 cuts, which I don't even know how many blades that takes. Let's figure at least 2 blades per cut at a minimum. And have extras on top of that. I went through all my spare blades. So when you're up here, again, my front bolt came out, but this rear piece was rusted solid. Was rusted solid in here, so you couldn't get it to turn, move, or anything. So I had to cut that off. Okay, same thing with my rear one. You can see my rear bolt is still in there because it's rusted in there. But once you cut that bolt off, you can hammer that out. You shouldn't have to do a double cut. I hope I don't. That's the only one left to take out. See, there's my rear. That was all seized in there. I had to hammer it. Once that's cut, and you hammer on this piece, then it'll break free. In fact, this one came all the way out, how it's supposed to. That was after I cut it. Once I hammered and hammered and hammered on this piece, it finally loosened up and this popped off, then this popped out. This other one is still seized in there, but at least the washer came off. I hammered and hammered and hammered, and then this washer popped off. It finally loosened up and popped off, then this piece came out. This piece separated. This piece, the washer is still fused to this part, but it came out of here. So this stuff is all one rusted solid piece. So no ways around it. I messed around for a couple hours. Once I decided just to man up and cut those bolts off, it probably took another 2 hours, but then it's just done. Once you know you have to cut those bolts, just cut them off and be done with it, and then just plan on replacing these bushings. Like, if you're not replacing these bushings or these lower control arms, then don't really mess with this crap too much. Just leave it alone. Because once you pull these lower control arms off, you're going to have to cut all these bolts, replace your bushings, because this is all solid. That's not coming out. You have to replace those bushings. What I'm doing is going to white line bushings on here, and I'm replacing my ball joint. This truck has about 80,000 miles on it. It's a 2010, so it's about 8 years and 2 months old. I live in the north, so we drive through salt. So they're rusted solid, and I've had probably 3 wheel alignments because I've changed tires a couple times. I've lifted it twice, an OEM lift and now a Fox lift, and each time I changed something, I had the wheel alignment done. So I had to put a new set of tires on, change tires, lifted it. So that was at least 3 wheel alignments. But somewhere in the middle, somehow the stuff all got seized. Maybe the guys who were doing the wheel alignment just cheated and just got it close enough. It moved just enough to be back in alignment and just didn't mess with it. So that's what it takes to get the lower control arms out. Your ball joint has this piece on it here. Easy way to pop that off is you just get a piece of wood, put it on each side of this, just hammer that ball joint, and that pops free. That gets that piece off. These ball joints you can press out. These you can heat up and press out. I'm not doing that. I'm bringing this to a guy with a press. I'm going to have him do it. Just cutting those bolts off and everything was enough for me. So that's it. That's how to get your lower control arms off. Yeah, you're going to have to cut the bolts.